What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Extra Innings Podcast. I'm your host, Elijah Rodriguez, and today we are here with a kind of a special, little bit of a different episode. It's not anything related to recruiting. It's not MLB news, but I guess it's definitely tied into the MLB and some stuff like that. But we're gonna talk about catching specifically, and not just catching in the whole, but this one knee down debate that seems, and I feel like I've stayed as far away as possible from it because I didn't quite want to talk about it, because I think catching is a very versatile position. It can be done. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. I think it's a comfort thing. I think it's play the position how you're going to perform your best, right? So here's the dilemma, guys. So and just before let me kind of set this up here. So when I was in high school, I've talked about this before. I played in college, but I was a PO. I was a pitcher when I got to college. I played 1 year of catcher, and I don't even really count that because it was my first year out of high school, and I was pretty much just a bullpen catcher. That's what I was. Anyway, so when I was in high school, my junior year, I had been kind of like an infielder. I was a shit infielder and a pitcher. I could hit the ball decent, whatever. And by the time I got to my junior year, at the end of my junior year, we didn't have a catcher that we could trust because it's public school. We don't have that wide. I mean, it was private school, so we didn't have like the same kind of public school where we could just, we get this wide variety of players. We didn't have a catcher. We had like the two JV guys that were brutal, and then one guy that was like okay, and like one freshman that was all right, that could maybe handle it. But then we found out real quickly you couldn't handle it. Now, my coach comes up to me, he goes, "Here's gear. Learn how to catch." And I literally taught myself how to catch. That's what I did. And you're talking back in 2012, 2013, where the traditional stance of catching was still very much alive. And that's how I taught myself. And I found it extremely hard to go your whole life. You probably had a couple like damn, they needed you to catch us, and then you went in there and you just kind of like white knuckled made it through, right? No, this was like I taught myself blocking and everything, and it was hard. It was really really fucking hard to teach myself from the traditional standpoint to the secondary standpoint to jumping on, because I already had I got weird knees, man. Now they're totally fucked from running, but back then my knees had such a hard time. I would have a lot of inflammation. Like my knees were fucked. Like it was bad. But like I said, I was a dedicated ball player, so I figured it out. I kept going, I kept rolling with it, and through the pain, through everything, I did really well, and that's how I got my first college offer. It was as a catcher to Incarnate Word, and it was Division I. So I thought I was doing all right for catching for a little over 2 years, and pretty much just teaching myself, because like I said, we didn't have like catching specific coaches and all these people teaching us all these like intense drills. Like we had like drills here and there if we had like time in practice or something, but it wasn't anything like this is like catching time only. Like, no, we didn't do that. Bullpens were just like pitching coach and no catching coach, just pitching, and you're there to receive it, work on it as you can or what you think is right, and that's how we move on, right? So that's what I did. Now, we fast forward to now we're in 2024. This was almost 10, 11 years ago. Now this whole thing's coming out about one knee catching, one knee down, one OKD, whatever you call it, one knee down, left, right, whatever. And so I kept playing, and I caught a couple games my sophomore year of college, still very much the traditional way, and everybody else is catching the traditional way, because if you look back, at coaching in the old school way of you give the sign. Now they got pitch comm. They got, you can give signs different ways. That's why I say that catching is such a versatile position, because everyone does it kind of differently. There's no one guy. There's no one way to do it. There's just not. And that's just how it's always been. You got guys do one thing, another thing. So, coaches were always like, get off your knees, get rid of the knee savers, get off your knees, don't go to your knees, stand up every time you're going to throw the ball back to the pitcher, stand up every time you're going to throw the ball around the horn on a strikeout, stand up. It was from squat to stand. And what a lot of people didn't understand, and like if you look at the history, the statistics, especially in Major League Baseball, of a catcher's lifespan, it was very short. Because think about that, most guys, especially back in the days, like in the like 80s, 90s, maybe even a little bit earlier, when that was very much the way to catch. You know how much wear and tear goes on your fucking knees when you're standing, when you're squat, stand, squat, stand, squat, stand, squat, stand over and over and over and over and over again 162 times a year, or 162 games a year for 9 innings. I don't think every catcher's playing every game, so I'm a little facetious there, but let's move it back. Let's go maybe 155 times, 150 times a year. Some of these guys played all the time back then, right? They didn't believe in off days, right? It's a different generation. But, I can only imagine. I could do it for a high school season, and by the time the summer came along, my knees were fucked. I can't imagine going from freaking spring training all the way in, if you play well, to October, squatting down and standing up, squatting down and standing up. That's ridiculous. It's insanity. So the one knee down makes sense because it saves your knees. It's more comfortable. There's all kinds of benefits to it, right? But anyway, so as time kind of progressed, you had a lot of these old heads seeing kids. Well, not kids, because it started. Here's the deal, and this is something I tell people all the time. I did it when I worked. This is if you're working in any sort of baseball space, selling, talking, whatever. If you can showcase what major leaguers are doing, the kids are going to do it. I promise. That's how it goes. That's how it always been. It's with bats. It's with gloves, batting gloves, everything with position players, the way that they play, batting stances, approaches, everything. If a pro's doing it, the kids soon follow. That's how it's always been. It will always be that way, right? So, all of a sudden, catchers start doing this one knee down shit. And for those watching, I'm going to show you guys because I have quite a bit of stuff here. So let's see here. We got here. Let's present some screen here, huh? It's been a minute. Okay, here we go. My boy Jose right there. Yeah, stud. Anyway, that's not actually what I'm here for. Okay, so if you don't know one knee down, I think the earliest iterations, because this is the traditional stance. So you got the traditional stance here. This is the traditional. It's a Russell Martin. That's old school. Plays catch at the toughest position. Yeah, okay. It's back when he was with New York. So you got that, and then it kind of evolves. So this is even back then. Look at that. This is way back then, guys. Look at that. So it's evolved. The catching position has evolved, right? So here's so here's a perfect. So here's knee down, and here is the traditional stance. You can obviously see that staying like this for multiple times a game. For sometimes, I guess, if a game back then with no pitch clock lasted 3 hours, maybe you like this about half the time. That's pretty brutal on your legs. Anyway, that's besides the point. So I just wanted to show that, just to kind of iterate for people that don't know right now. So there became a time where catchers started to slowly, like, obviously there's guys that even did it back then, probably were shit on back then for it, because everyone back in the 80s, 90s were not doing one knee down. It was very much a traditional stance. You look at guys like Pudge, you look at all these other guys, it's all traditional, right? So you had all these coaches saying, well, if you're not catching, you're going down to a knee, you're staying on your knees, you're lazy. That's not the right way to catch. That's not the right way to do it. You're sacrificing your mobility. You're sacrificing your defense. You're sacrificing your ability to throw people out, yada, yada, yada. Though, if you're a major league catcher, major league catchers have been throwing people out from their fucking knees for years. So that was the last one. I'm like, really, bro? That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, now, the big thing is it's lazy. It's lazy, it's lazy, it's lazy. So I have some stats here. I don't need to show you guys the stats. I was going to show a video here in a minute. So here are the stats for Major League Baseball, right? So the stats of the catchers who are using the one knee down versus the traditional or the conventional, whatever you want to call it. So in 2020, right, these stats are a little bit, they're probably more now. It's probably less conventional, more one knee down. In 2020, 39% of MLB catchers used an OKD, which is one knee down stance, while 41% still used the conventional, and then 20 used a hybrid, right? I don't like that stat. I don't think that's actually true. Because, like I said, this is 2020. It's 4 years ago. I think the game's still evolving. It's still moving. And then it says one knee down catchers average 0.49 blocks above average per catcher, while conventional setup catchers block 0.42. So this whole iteration of you're lazy if you're on a one knee down doesn't work anymore, because you're getting more blocks. Not by a lot, but you're getting more blocks from a one knee down setup, right? And the number of pass balls and wild pitches per game has decreased over 3 years as more and more catchers are using the OKD. So, and then I before this, so I've started super late today, guys. It's already almost 7:30 because I sat down and I was going through different people's takes on this. I went through the ABCA, I went through like different forums, all these different discussion boards, looking at what people were saying about the 1 knee down, right? And you know, you've got a lot of guys that were like, it's still lazy, you're still sacrificing mobility, and they have these videos of guys that are catching, that are fucking up and missing blocks, or you know, they can't get around to certain places. Now, I laughed because I was like, dude, you can go on the internet and find guys fucking up all the time. In any position. I went just to play devil's advocate with this guy. Obviously, this discussion happened like a year ago, so I was really just playing, like, just doing it on my own. I was like, let's find catching errors, and there's a lot of fucking catching errors from like the early like 95 to like 2000 to like 2018 of guys in conventional stances missing blocks, missing pitches completely, yeah, everything, right? All the above. You can find guys screwing up in just about anything, especially in Major League Baseball, because every game is televised and every mistake is magnified on this massive level. I think that's such a stupid argument for people to say, well, you sacrifice your defense because you're 1 knee down, and then it goes right back to the same shit because you're fucking lazy. No, it's not it. Anyone can have an error. These are humans. I've said this a million times. Anyone can have an error. Anyone can just have a fuck up. Like, it happens. It happens in baseball. That's part of the game, right? Now, what do I think, right? So I've done a beautiful thing, right? So I caught way back earlier when it was very much the conventional to a secondary, to slam your knees on the ground and block and slide and jump and throw your body all over the place and all this mobility stuff. Do the drills where you're up, down, up, down. I did all that shit, all of it. And now as I came back and I played in college all the way through 2017, 16 technically. And then from 17 to 2022, I didn't pick up a baseball. I didn't do anything. I was like, I'm done with this shit. I don't want to play anymore. I'm over it. And then, you know, I have some buddies that play in a more competitive league. It's really just a guy that, you know, well, he's a really good friend of mine that I've known him. He coached me, and then we became really good family friends. He's really good friends with my parents, and we've just became really cool, and our families are close. So he had been bugging me for years to come out and play. You don't have to throw. You don't have to do anything. You can just hit. Because my arm was fucked back then. I didn't realize how much scar tissue had formed, and I can actually function a bit. And I went out there, and he was like, yeah, you can catch. You can whatever you want to do. And I was like, you know, my arm feels pretty good. You know, I'll pitch a little bit, and then if you need me to, like, I can catch. And then, you know, I ended up catching, and I realized that a lot of guys were, especially the younger guys that are fresh out of college, were doing the 1 knee down. I said, you know what, fuck this. If I'm going to catch, I'm going to give this a shot. And then, you know, I started playing whatever, started doing the 1 knee down, and I can catch 9 full innings, and I'm not fatigued. I don't have pass balls because I can kick my leg out. I can adjust myself like properly enough to where if I know, okay, and this is where people get into the neck and the deep of it, right? Like, this is where it's stupid. I've seen catchers, right? There was a video I was watching. I don't remember the catcher's name, but I was looking up all the errors and shit, right? And he calls a slider from a righty, so it's going to tail towards the outside of the box into the lefty box. It's going to tail that way, right, to a right-handed hitter. He calls the slider, whatever, on the outside corner. He wants to get that outside hook. Boom, you can bring it back in, right? So he's setting up. He's 1 knee down. He's setting up. Fuck, I don't remember who it is. I'm gonna have to go back and find it. Don't have time right now. But he sets up. But where he sets up, it's an outside curve, right? So, or slider. So he's gonna, you know, naturally, you know, anyone with a brain, in my opinion, as a catcher, you know, I'm like, okay, so I'm expecting this ball to be out here. I might actually set myself up over here because that would give me, that's where the pitch should be. If he throws it in here or he backdoors it on accident, I can still come this way and get it. Like, I can still throw my body this way and at least put it down here. But me, Elijah, I'm coming over here and I'm going to say, okay, I'm expecting it here. So I'm going to kick my leg out and I'm going to be able to move my body this way to corral it here. That catcher set up straight down the fucking middle, 1 knee down, right knee or left knee down. How the hell is he going to get over there? How is he going to catch it? So of course he missed it and it would look terrible. But it's shit like that. I'm like, this is all preventable if you're going to catch one knee down, there has to be measures that you take per pitch, per situation that make sure that you're not going to be put in that position. Now, my take as we're getting into this, we've gone over the stats, we've gone over everything, the benefits. So the benefits, we didn't actually talk about the benefits of this. Besides the less fatigue, besides the strain and wear and tear on your knees of going down and smacking into the ground because you've been up and you throw yourself down. Aside from the obvious, I think there's a fine line because we've seen some issues here. I was watching Major MLB Network for the last couple of days, and there was the whole thing with Wilson Contreras getting his arm broken on the backswing. But at the same time, then Jose Trevino came on a couple of days prior and talked about one knee catching and really broke it down for Leiter and D-Row. And I agree with everything the dude said about one knee catching. It saves careers, man. It fixes a lot of things. It fixes so much. And depending on how you do it, it can be very beneficial. I think it's something that you have to teach. I think it's something you have to work on before you just roll up into a game and say, I'm a one knee down catcher now. Let's see what happens. Like, no, you should take it to the bullpen. You should take it to blocking drills. You should take it to all the above before you take it into a game situation. You can't just show up with it, especially if you've been catching a certain way. You can't just go one knee down. It doesn't work that way. But some other benefits is like you can get way lower. So a lot of times, I wish I could show you guys, because this might be a video that I make for YouTube to talk about one knee down catching, because it's hard for me to display what I'm trying to tell you via podcast. I didn't think about this in hindsight. But when you're in a conventional, when you're one knee down, you're already obviously lower to the ground, meaning you can come up and move through balls a lot from the lower half of the zone, giving you a lot more play of that lower half of that imaginary box that we all know and love. You can get the bottom part of that zone a lot better and really display those pitches a lot better from the lower half of the zone, which is stealing strikes, which is why that's the main fucking reason why a lot of guys are doing this, because you can get in there and you can steal a lot more strikes from the bottom half of the zone. It really works. Because think about it, if you're in a secondary position with runners on base and somebody throws a ball low and you're high naturally, because a lot of these guys are 6 foot something and they're up on their hind legs catching, right? Because they're up and they're getting ready to do whatever they got to do, because that's the way you're supposed to do it, apparently. So they're up. They're about 5'5". They're probably about as tall as I am from a squat, and the ball's at the lower half of the zone. They're going to have to do this. They got to stab or go down or try to get a thumb under it to display it still in the zone. And to the umpire, right? Because this is you are displaying everything to him because he makes the call. So to the umpire, that's I see stabbed, it's too low. He stabbed, it's too low. He stabbed there, it's there, whatever, right? So it displays as a ball. And that's probably like my biggest thing is stabbing. Obviously, that's the whole that we can talk about catching issues, but that's a big thing. You're already low and you're already you can work up, because you can always go up or you can always bring it down. Like there's ways to do this to where you can display and frame to the best of the best abilities. Jose Trevino is a great guy at doing that. He's been a guy who's stolen so many strikes. Real Muto's another guy. Will Smith, all these guys, one knee down, stealing strikes. Like that's how it goes. Like I don't. Let's see. Wilson Smith. No, Will Smith, bro. I like how I type in Will Smith and Will Smith pops up. No, I want to see Will Smith catching. Right there it is. One knee down. Oh, that's not really one knee down. He's making a play at the plate. Oh man. So Will Smith kind of is a conventional guy. He goes back and forth. Oh, there he is right there. One knee down. Look at that. So yeah, it's a hit or miss, guys. Like it goes back, it goes either way. But the biggest one, it was always funny, was that guys were always like, dude, one knee down is lazy. You can't do that anymore. You can't do one knee down. Can't do one knee down. It's lazy. You can't throw people out. You're sacrificing mobility. So now I have proof of everyone. If you're listening, I apologize. You're just going to hear audio here. But I wanted to, for the people that watch, I wanted to show this. No. What is this crap? I don't give a shit about the guitar. What is this? Okay, that's not going to work. I don't know what happened there. So he's playing some guitar lesson thing, apparently. I don't know what that's about. And it's apparently forever long. So let's see. That makes no sense. I don't know what that was about. Couldn't skip it. Let's reload the page and see if that works. But anyway, so point is, I had a lot of guys that were saying they can't throw people out. There's video compilations of guys throwing people out from a one knee down stance. Okay, I got it here. Okay, I don't know what that was all about. That was really weird. Look, so here we go. Let's look at this. Okay.
There's fewer than two.
Salvador Perez here, guys. So if you're watching, if you're listening, here it is. Salvador Perez saw no delay in his. Here's another one.
Take advantage.
Runner goes down.
Boom.
Swing.
There are no. I don't see a single issue.
Butter, the pitch is high, and the throw is on the
catch.
money. McCormick out.
Yeah. So, like I said, we could watch these all day. I didn't realize how long the video was, so we're not going to go through the whole thing. But like you can tell here, guys, there's a lot of dudes that are throwing guys out big time from a one knee down. Boom. I got to show one of Trevi. Here we go. Boy, Trevi. One knee down.
Goes. Throw to second.
Even on the inside. Whoa, let's go back real quick. Let's look at where if you're watching, I apologize. This pitch is way inside. Like, I mean, almost hits the guy, and he's still able to get to it.
Throw to second.
And throw you out fast. So the argument of you're losing mobility, you're losing whatever is a bunch of bullshit. That's not true. You're losing, all this other shit. Yeah, you're going to, like I've said before, and I'm going to wrap this up here. I've said it before. You're going to find errors on everybody. Everybody's going to have errors every so often, no matter what, no matter what position you're on. Whether you're conventional, whether you're traditional, whatever you want to call it versus one knee down, you're going to have those issues, right? And to be honest, depending on how you set up and depending on how your preparation is per pitch, that also goes into a lot of the reasoning of errors in the first place, depending on how you set up, depending on where you're setting up, depending on the pitch, depending on the situation. All of that goes into this one movement, all of it. And how you prepare and how you set up will determine how well you play that position in that setup. And that's what I believe. But in all honesty, guys, me catching now and actually performing it, and last year I was really lucky that I was catching a lot of bullpens for a lot of pro guys all year, all summer. I mean, all summer because they're already gone, obviously. But like from January through May, I caught MLB, MILB. I caught minor league guys, major league guys, indie ball guys, and I was able to work on a lot of that catching craft, which is why I caught so much last year. And I got into this whole thing of what's the most common, like the most comfortable. I was working on block. I did everything, guys. I did everything. And the one knee down worked. It works. I didn't miss a lot of blocks. Obviously, I'm not a professional. I'm going to fuck up a lot. I'm not pro. I was a PO for half my life after catching. So, and I only caught for really like 3-4 years. So yeah, I'm a little bit raw. I'm not Jose Trevino. Obviously, I can't do half that shit. But me catching from a one knee, I felt so much more comfortable. I could sit down there for longer. I could steal more strikes. I could frame better. I could get to balls easier. I could block better. So there were so many more benefits than me going from the traditional. Had I been traditional or conventional, whatever you want to call it, and kept trying to catch those bullpens all year last year like that, it would have been a fucking nightmare because my knees would have been screwed. I felt like I would have been broken. My body, my knee, everything would have hurt. But the one knee down saved me, whether that's with the left, the right, depending on the situation, you go back and forth. So the one knee down works. The one knee down works. Now for kids, for parents listening, if you have kids that are catchers, if you coach and you're coaching kids and they want to try the one knee down, here's my advice. Here's what I'm going to say. There is a fine line between taking the one knee down, especially, I'm talking strictly from a coaching perspective here now. That we're moving away from the player aspect of things. We're moving away from MLB. We're talking strictly, as we wrap this up, we're talking strictly in a coaching capacity, parent capacity. This is what I'm going to say. There is a fine line when teaching the one knee down where it is just a kid being lazy and not wanting to move or do anything. Because along my search this morning, I found very well there were some kids, youth kids, doing that where it just looked fucking terrible. And as a coach, I'd be like, yeah, nah, you're back up. Until you can show me that you can actually move and you give a shit and you're trying with the knee down, you're not doing the knee down. I think it's something that you earn, truly. From a coaching standpoint, quit telling kids it's lazy, especially if they're getting older, 13, 14, 15. They're getting into a more serious aspect of the game, and they're doing the one knee down, discouraging them and saying, that's freaking lazy. It's not the way you catch. It's the way you can fucking catch, especially if they're doing it and they're good at it. Now, there's always building blocks. There's always training. There's always practice. You're not going to be perfect, so there may be errors here and there. Like I said, those come no matter what. No matter what position they're in, they're going to have these errors. It's going to happen. But make sure that they're practicing it. They're testing it out. They're doing it at home. They're doing all these things to become truly, like I said, there's situations where they should be set up one way, situations to be set up another, where they position themselves on certain pitches in certain situations. All that goes into this. So if they're not doing all that, they're not going to be successful with the one knee down. Because if you're always just one knee down, setting up down the middle, that's when issues come to both sides of the plate, right? Breaking ball over here. If I'm right down the middle with my left knee down, I gotta throw my body this way. If I have this leg down, it's so make sure they're practicing it. It's not lazy. They can truly be successful with that setup. I promise you, because I'm doing it now, and I've seen kids doing it now. I've seen a lot of kids that I was coaching are doing it now in 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. So yes, it's possible. It's definitely possible, and it's definitely a new way of catching. It's a new age of catching. It's where we've passed the old school and we're into this one knee down section. And it'll be interesting to see where we go from here, man, how the game still evolves from there. But I think right now where we're at, the one knee down seems to be taking over baseball, and it's prolonging careers. It's giving pitchers have to love this. It's giving them more of an advantage against some of the best hitters in the game. You get a whole nother level of the zone that you may not have been able to ever even touch. So yes, there are a lot of benefits depending on who you talk to, who you ask. In reality, it's really their age or how they watch or play baseball. That's going to determine their opinions on this. But in my opinion, all in all, guys, as we wrap this up, one knee down catching is here to stay, and I think there are some benefits to it when done correctly and done properly. If you're just out there one knee down, willy-nilly, just trying to, figure it out, you're going to have some issues. But all in all, one knee down is not lazy. It's not a lazy way of catching. It's the new way of catching. It's prolonging your careers. It's saving your knees, all the above. So thanks for listening, guys. If you have comments, if you have thoughts, please let me know below what you think about the one knee down. If I'm just a lazy fuck or I don't know what I'm talking about, let me know, man. Let's discuss. Let's talk. But be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that shit, man. We got a lot of content, a lot of cool stuff happening yesterday. A lot of cool stuff happening. Well, yeah, we did have a lot of cool stuff happening yesterday, but we got more stuff coming today. I'm hoping to have a breakdown tomorrow. I had an idea for one, so we'll have that come out tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But thanks for listening, guys, and we will be back tomorrow with another episode. So we'll catch you tomorrow, guys. Thanks for listening.